God, Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer.
Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. When I was about 50 years old, I started having regular physical examinations. Up until that point, I went to the eye doctor once a year and to the dentist every 6 months, and there were occasional examinations that were required in order to get a life insurance policy. But otherwise, I felt healthy. I felt good. I had energy. And I didn't really see any need to take the time to go to the doctor once a year. Well, as I said, that changed when I was about 50, and that was pretty much at the urging of my wife. And it followed a regular pattern for the next few years. I'd go to the doctor, do all the regular things that one do with the doctor at that age in life. And the doctor would tell me to lose weight, to exercise more, and to change my diet a little bit. And I'd listen to him and say, yeah, that's a good idea, and then I'd just go ahead and do what I did anyway. But when I was about 60, I went, well, my insurance changed, and so I had to change doctors. And so I went to this new doctor for the first time. And I went into the examining room, and the nurse weighed me and took my pulse and my temperature and took my blood pressure. And when she was finished taking my blood pressure, she said, "Oh my." I said, "What's the matter?" "Well, let me do that again." And she took my blood pressure a second time and lay down on the examining table and just try to relax for a while. And then let me take her blood pressure a third time. And finally I said, "Well, what's wrong?" And she said, "Well, the systolic, that's the top number, is 180. That's high. That's really high. That's dangerously high." And so she pressed the button and the buzzer sounded and the doctor came in. The doctor took my pulse and then took my blood pressure himself. It was pretty much the same as it was. He seemed very concerned, even though we really hadn't had much of a chance to get acquainted. And so he suggested I go out to the waiting room and wait for a while. And maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then come back and we'd try it again and see if the blood pressure went on down. Well, it went down a little bit, but not very much. And he communicated his concern. He said, "That's very high. You have high blood pressure, hypertension. You probably should be on medications." And I said, "Oh, I see. So this is just a fluke of some kind. Maybe it's something I ate last night, or something that I'm anxious about today, like coming to see you for the first time. I'm sure this isn't a real problem." And the doctor said, "Oh, okay, let's finish with the examination and then come back in a week and we'll see how things are." Well, this was on my mind for the week that intervened, and I went back the next week to see the doctor, and the blood pressure was still up there. It was not quite over 180 any longer, but it was about 160 or 165, which is still much too high. And I said, "Okay, I think you convinced me that I need to take some medicine for this." He's prescribed 2 medications, a diuretic and a beta blocker. And then he suggested that I get a blood pressure monitor and take my blood pressure every day so that I could see for myself just what my blood pressure was like and pay attention to it. And so I did that, and I started taking the pills. And gradually I accepted the fact that I was no longer 20 years old, and that I was 60, and that I had some underlying physical conditions. Worst case was that I had a heart attack or a stroke. And the doctor explained that to me. He also said, "It's not surprising that you don't feel any symptoms, because your life has not changed very much, and with high blood pressure you don't really experience anything until something awful happens, like a stroke or heart attack." kind of a silent thing. And I understood that and accepted it. And ever since, I've been tinkering, the doctors and I have been tinkering with my blood pressure medications to try to get it stable and keep it low. Different medicines seem to have worked at different times, some more effectively than others. But I now know that I have a problem there. You see, sometimes accepting the diagnosis is the hard part. But until one accepts the diagnosis, one really can't do any healing about it. Because if one denies one has a problem, one is not going to put oneself, heart and soul, into whatever is required to deal with the issue. I suspect that some people in this congregation had a similar reaction when you read the report that a consultant prepared about the readiness of St. Luke's Church to undertake a search for a new rector. I'm sure that for some of you, this report was startling. Bad news. Bad news is never easy to take. But we're in as a congregation, same kind of situation that I was in upon learning that I had high blood pressure. I needed to accept that in order to do something about it. I think I just wrote it off. No, it's there. Twisted it around. What stood out to me in that report were two things. One is that there is conflict in this congregation. And the conflict is primarily focused on change. Whether there is to be change in this congregation or not. Some people recognize that St. Luke's needs to change with the times. The changes that have occurred in society at large, but also the changes that have occurred in the immediate neighborhood surrounding St. Luke's Church. And then there are others who say, well, we're like an island here in St. Luke's Church. And we just need to keep on doing things the way we've always done them. The question is, which holds the path to the future? Change or no change? And that divides this congregation. Not everyone is on the same page. There's no common mind about St. Luke's at the moment, and as it goes forward. And without that common mind, it's very difficult to undertake a search for a new rector because you don't know the skills and the expertise that you need in a new rector to move you in a direction that isn't clear. The other thing that stood out is that the vestry is also not of one mind in making decisions about the day-to-day life of this congregation. As I read the report, I understood that there are some strong-willed individuals on the vestry who are seeking their own idea, each of them, of what they want St. Luke's to be. And it's very difficult to find common ground, to find areas of agreement where everyone can pull together. See, I believe that conflict is a good thing up to a point. When a congregation has a very clear sense of its purpose, of its mission, and a sense of direction for its future, then it's necessary to have disagreements about how to get from point A to point B. And that needs to be sorted out with lively discussion. But ultimately, there is a need to cooperate, to collaborate with one another, to find a way forward that everyone can agree with. When there isn't that sense of purpose, common purpose, and direction for the future, then conflict can paralyze and prevent any action from taking place. I've worked with a number of congregations over my career as a congregation consultant and interim priest. I've prepared reports like the one that has been prepared with the help of the diocese for St. Luke's Church. And that's why I told you that the story about my high blood pressure and my refusal to accept what the doctor diagnosed. I've had to see it for myself. And that happened. So this congregation is in a similar place right now, where it needs to accept the diagnosis, if you will, so that something can be done about it. We all love team sports. We probably have our favorite. It might be baseball or basketball or football. But the point of a team sport is a team that works together. Agreement is made on a certain play, a certain approach to an opportunity at bat, opportunity to score a goal, and the team works as one to make that happen. I first came to St. Luke's as a supply priest in the summer of 2015 when Father Ray Massenberg was on vacation and did 4 services, one right after another. And one of the things that impressed me the most about St. Luke's Church and made it stand out among other congregations where I've served as supply is that the Sunday morning experience was like a well-oiled machine. And I'm telling you this because today it wasn't quite as well-oiled as it's been in the past, because I think of the shift of the time of worship. But what impressed me in the past was that the ushers, the lay worship ministers, the acolytes, the musicians, the lectors, all knew what they were doing, and they did it well. All these things that happen behind the scenes that many of you may not even be aware of, that it takes coordination and dedication and commitment to make it happen like clockwork every Sunday. I see those things because I have to. I'm the priest. And the people who are doing those things, the people on the various committees for worship, they know how important it is for that to be well coordinated and to work like clockwork. There was a glitch this morning, and so I had to vest the chalice and the paten on the altar. But that's okay. So when I learned that there was some conflict in this congregation, I said to myself, how can that be? I'm used to seeing St. Luke's perform on Sunday morning like a congregation that uniquely among congregations with which I'm familiar. And I congratulate you for that. So it shows what St. Luke's can be. But that coordination, that commitment, that dedication needs to extend into other areas of congregational life, including the leadership, the vestry. The readings today were kind of strange. We don't have enough information in the reading of the Old Testament to fully understand what was going on here. So if you're kind of confused, don't worry. The gospel reading is very troubling, saying that hand causes you to stumble, cut it off. If your foot causes you to stumble, cut it off. If your eye causes you to stumble, pull it out. Use the word stumble over and over and over again with just drastic consequences. And I don't believe that Jesus meant what he said literally. Most scholars regard this whole section as a series of metaphors. And Jesus means the cutting off of limbs and plucking out of eyes as an exaggerated reaction to things that make people stumble. I see St. Louis at the moment stumbling toward the future. And it needs to find a way to remove those stumbling blocks that are in its way. The reading from James is probably the clearest of the three readings today. James is talking about the importance of prayer. The importance of prayer and praise, but mostly prayer. And he lists a whole variety of circumstances you might look at over again later today. The different issues and problems that James recommends to God in prayer. I often suggest to people that we're so used to asking, what are you praying for? As though prayer is like picking up the telephone and calling dominoes and placing an order, telling God what we want. And I don't think that's what prayer really is. I don't think we necessarily are best served by thinking of praying for X, Y, or Z. I think it's more helpful to pray about something. Because when you pray about something, it means you're open to receiving some kind of guidance from Christ, some kind of direction. So I'd like to suggest that this congregation, starting today and continuing indefinitely, engage in praying about St. Luke's Church. Praying about its present. Praying about its mission, its future. Mission is purpose. Vision is what we see happening in the future as a result of following our purpose. All kinds of things in our lives where we say, this is what I'm here to do. And then automatically, in our mind, we start visualizing the things that will happen when we start doing whatever it is. And so I'd like to suggest that you pray about St. Luke's mission and St. Luke's vision for the future. And then pray about leadership. Is Christ calling you to step forward as a leader of this congregation, to bring new ideas and new skills to the leadership of this congregation? I hope that you will pray about that, both for yourself and about that for other people in this congregation who are very committed and dedicated to St. Luke's, but are not in a position of leadership at this time. But most pray about each other in this congregation. It's awfully hard to be in conflict when you're praying about another person. When A and B have a disagreement about something and they start praying about each other, then they can find a way forward in their disagreement. And they can find common ground where they can work together. So I ask you, pray about St. Luke's Church. Pray about its mission and its vision. But most of all, pray about one another. Amen.
Amen.